Hi guys, we have a lot to do in today's video. We're doing a recap of episode 8 and 9 with gossip, okay? And the time codes are in the description of this video if you want to skip some of it and watch a certain part. So have fun. All right, so on this week's The Valley Season 2, Episode 8 and 9 kind of merged, had to. We're going to talk some tea about Jared. He's introduced to the group on The Valley in this episode, but he's been friends with Scheana Shay and Janet for a long time. He met the group via Kristen Doute in early seasons of LVP's Vanderpump Rules, but then Kristen Doute and Jared had some sort of falling out. We're not totally sure why, but I think it probably has to do with Kristen's lack of filter sometimes, which makes her a great reality TV person, but maybe a difficult friend to have. So Jared ends up doing a podcast with Janet Caperna, which is how he gets so close to her. More pictures of the group. There they are, Scheana Shay and Janet and other friends of Bravo. There's Jared. Well, for some reason, Zach Wickham hates Jared, and we don't really know why, but he essentially, after cameras were shut down, got in a big argument with everybody talking about Jared. And, Zach Wickham said he can go fuck himself, but this is kind of hard for me to hear, considering that Jared nearly died of leukemia in 2020. Geez, give the guy a break. So Kristen Doute and Zach are not invited to a party at Scheana Shay's where she's doing her enchiladas or whatever. Jared was vegan and now he can have them, and maybe that's the reason for this party. But needless to say, they get together and Zach says to Kristen, because he's not at the party, that him and Britany have become different in their friendship and he misses their old ways, and she doesn't stick up for him like she used to. She sides with, whomever, I suppose. I don't know. I don't see Brittany Cartwright being invited to some of the things on Jared's Instagram, so I don't know why she's so concerned about him. She probably should be more concerned about Zach from Kentucky and who's known her for years. But I do get the sense that when Zach drinks, he says things that, even though are hyperbole, I know the definition, also could be this word, impoison. So Jasmine was invited to Scheana Shay's party, but she didn't want to go because Jason Caperna and Janet Caperna were there, and they're going to be obviously talking about the fact that Jasmine started a rumor that Jason doesn't wear his wedding ring, potentially to hit on girls. And then, of course, Kristen called this rumor out so they could distract from Danny allegedly doing bad things when he drinks, because Kristen's good friends with Danny and Nia. So this is where the plot thickens. So sure enough, Britany goes to lunch with Jasmine, is like, why don't you just apologize for making this thing up about Jason and his ring? And she's like, I didn't make it up. I not only heard that from one person, I heard it from like 3 people, so I'm not apologizing, but I will go to the beach. So Janet Caperna gets for her 30th birthday from her mom a metal detector. She got a little upset because her mom did about Jason taking off his ring and that being said on the show. And Jason got upset too when he started to realize people might believe it, even though no one else around Jason seems to. Well, they all go to the beach and they're hanging out, and she finds a bottle cap with it, and the group starts to arrive. Suddenly, the conversation takes a turn for the worse when Lala and Scheana arrive at the beach. We listen to that Brock's pee-pee is big wide-wise, but not long, and Scheana got hemorrhoids in her butt. So then Jason and Janet call Janice over to go over this rumor, and we find out she heard it 2 years ago, but she didn't believe it, but she did hear it. Then we figure out why Jason is so upset. He thinks Janice made this whole thing up really to be on the show. Like, her job on the show is to create drama, and none of it he believes is real. And now he's questioning like his friendship with her. Was she just using him, for stuff for the show? Like, what is going on here? And also, she seems to hate Janet, and for years. So Jason's like, I don't get it. Is this real? What's real? Then throughout the episode, we hear that Kristen heard this rumor about Jason from someone else, and Zach heard also this rumor from someone else. So then Jax Taylor calls Jason from rehab, and I guess Jason has now become like the judge and jury for all people. And Jason tells him, wow, I'm really proud of all the growth you've made, because now Jax is saying that he wishes that Britany left him a long time ago because he was awful to her and she didn't stop it, and he's glad that she stopped it now. And he doesn't mention drugs or anything, just really coming from the bipolar point of view. And then he said that he needed a haircut and that he was going to give all the proceeds from the podcast to Brittany Cartwright to pay off the back mortgage. But as you guys know, after this all went down, Jax left the podcast, started another podcast, gave Brittany Cartwright the podcast, so didn't exactly just give her the revenue from the podcast going forward, because you only make money really on current podcasts and future podcasts and maybe the last 2 weeks of podcasts. You don't make it way, way back. So he really didn't give Brittany Cartwright anything except maybe the rights to their show RSS feed that generated money with iHeartRadio. But this was a very big exaggeration. And as I mentioned last week, the math ain't mathin'. So we found out that Brittany believes that Jax Taylor stole her rings from the house, probably other valuable stuff too, but that's all we're hearing about on the show, and sold it probably for his benefit. Although he's saying that he put it in a trust, and the trust is going to hold the rings to be liquidated for their son Cruz later. And he decided to take her property and put it in a trust for the son Cruz. It's so ridiculous. Jax is an asshole. He's an idiot. And she's an idiot for letting him take her rings, just saying. And I'm sure that they didn't even pay 70 grand for the rings, because that Chan guy who does all the jewelry in return for promotions on the show did the engagement ring. So he probably paid 20 or 30 for this 3-carat ring, and then they up to 70,000. So how did he get to decide what was going to happen to her ring? It's her ring. He totally reminds me of that psycho sociopath ex I had. Ew. Oh, God, I don't know if I can watch this show after this season because of Jax Taylor. And you know what? He's the one who developed the show, so he's not going anywhere. He even made the most money out of anyone on the season. Ew. So then we get to episode 9, When One Door Forecloses. Oh, that's a nice name. So we open up with the fact that Brittany still can't find her wedding ring. We kind of know already what's happened to that. And that her house is in foreclosure because Jax hasn't made payments on it. And that he's kind of pathetic because he's been liquidating some of her promotional items on his eBay page to make money, and even sold her Jenny Craig bags for $30. Really? So Kristen and Luke are having a housewarming party for their new house that they've rented in North Hollywood. Kristen Doty's rent is over $6,000 for her house, and she did redo a lot of it like it was her own. Look at her baby room she did for her first child. It's gorgeous. I'm happy for her. Such a nice thing to be able to do, is your own nursery in such a nice way. So then Zach gets scrotox, which is when your scrotum is injected with Botox, and I guess this is what happens to your balls. I don't know why anyone would do this, but here it is, only in LA. And we find out that Danny went with him, didn't want to participate, but sure enough, Jesse Lally, being weird, would love to. So then we get some juice on Michelle's boyfriend, Aaron, which Jesse's happy to receive from a girl named Jenna, who comes to Kristen's housewarming. And Jenna knows Sheena, Shay, and Zach. And so she comes to tell her story with Aaron to Jesse. And they kind of compare notes, and this is what is said. So what's the tea on this Jenna girl? Well, apparently she was dating Aaron a few years ago, and then she went on one date with Aaron a year and a half ago. And during this date a year and a half ago that she went on with Aaron, it's possible that Michelle couldn't get a hold of Aaron because she had just started dating him a few months, and then she went over to his house and she found a girl there, and the girl there might have been Jenna. But the whole thing here is that Jesse thinks that this is proof that Michelle was seeing Aaron when he was married to her. So, I mean, why does Michelle chase these gross guys that like do all this awful stuff to her? Maybe she needs to work on herself before she gets another boyfriend. I mean, I know she's been with Aaron now for like a year and a half or something because obviously the show timeline isn't accurate, but I don't know if he's the catch she's looking for. So then we find out that Jax is lying about everything. He's not going to the emergency room with anxiety like he's telling his family and Britany to try to make them feel bad. He is lying about what he's giving to Britany to make things right with the podcast and everything else. Britany goes on a whole tangent about how his name and her name are on the house, but she doesn't really get into the mortgage, which is different than the house, as I mentioned in last week's show. And I really think Jax doesn't care because either he has completely bad credit or he wasn't the primary person who qualified for the mortgage, and Britany doesn't understand that or get that, so she's the only one who's going to really be damaged. Otherwise, he wouldn't be walking away from the mortgage this easily, just saying. Jax Taylor said that he didn't fake the heart attack. He said that what happened was he wanted to go to the hospital because of his elevated blood pressure, and they told him to relax in a room while they coordinated him going to the hospital, and he fell asleep. And then when he woke up, it was not needed for him to go anymore. But he didn't manipulate the woman at the front desk, as everyone said, and, you know, this and that. And I don't know. I kind of believe that he did. So Jax's response to the fact that he was watching Brittany Cartwright on the camera was, I was, but she was watching me too, and I couldn't hear anything because we didn't have any audio on the cameras. So why is he lying to the producer? It's like weird. Remember what he said to the producer. He said, make sure you get that on film. I can hear everything, childish behavior. So I don't think he was talking about the security system. I think he was talking about something else he was listening to. Perhaps another listening device, as Brittany mentioned, or maybe something to do with production. So then we see Michelle go to one of Lala's houses and meet with her about sort of the similarities between Jesse and Randall Emmett and how, you know, they want to give everything to the kids and the kids don't get boundary setting and seem to be entitled after being with the dads. And both women are like, you know, I don't want a kid like that, essentially, and undo some of the parenting that, you know, their co-daddies do with them, with the kids. So it's a hard conversation, and then it goes to her mom. And what we are about to find out is so sad because Michelle Lally's mom passed away in October of 2024 after this was recorded. We find out her mom suddenly realized that she had stage 4 colon cancer out of the blue. And then she started to get chemo and it didn't work. And now she's in her second phase of chemo, but all along while Michelle is going through all this crap with Jesse. So Jax is going to his new condo from rehab and he's about to get released. It sounds like a mass murderer is getting out. Brittany's filing for divorce. It's official. She's like, I'm done playing his games. I'm not coming back this time. So Brittany revealed what made her file for divorce while Jax was still in rehab that wasn't shown on the show. She said that she loved the attorney when she actually met with her. She was strong, she seemed to know the law, and she had confidence. So besides not wanting Jax to drag her back in, she really felt confident with this attorney and wanted to make a move. She also was kind of taken aback at the attorney's reaction to the text messages and the things that happened as a result of her marriage to Jax and how he was treating her. The attorney was really like, this is not okay. We maybe didn't even see the full reaction to protect Jax, but that like shocked her that the attorney was so freaked out. And like, this is kind of dangerous, right? So that made her file for divorce too. And all the friends come over and show her support by packing up Jax's stuff because he keeps making excuses to come into the house using stuff he needs to get, but then he causes havoc when he goes. So she wants everything out and away from her. And her friends are happy she's doing this. And then they want to go to Jax's and convert it to Brit's bar and do like a one last night hurrah before Jax gets home. Now, Jax has pretty much missed almost the entire season, which now we understand why he was so upset when they told him that he had to go to rehab or get fired or whatever, right? And he still made a ton of money off this season. So it's kind of like, wow, I don't know. I have to think about that. Did you guys see this? Reality T got it from OK Magazine that the producers have been actively casting. It appears that lingering tensions are causing a bit of commotion, and Janet's issues with everyone on the cast aren't sitting well, the source noted. The Valley is casting. The reason they're casting is because they don't want the show to end like Vanderpump Rules when you have a cast that won't film with each other. Right now, you have Jax Taylor and Brittany Cartwright who are going through a bitter divorce. And you have Jesse and Michelle, who are also going through a brutal split. It wouldn't make sense for any of these estranged couples to go on trips together or spend time together going forward. But then we found out that Jesse's for sure safe. So what does that mean? Michelle and Aaron are off the show? If Jasmine Good and Melissa Marie get married and season 3 happens, then we are going to watch it on, the next season because they are inviting the entire cast. It's filming in New Jersey, so it'll be like the big group trip. And, that's they're making a big hoopla about it on Bravo. I don't know, how much the fans really care, but that's what they're trying to build the whole thing on. Now, Jasmine and Melissa have been together for a while. They're slow to plan their wedding, but they're, I guess, going to try to make it into a nice thing in New Jersey, so we'll have to see how it goes. Meanwhile, Michelle doesn't feel supported by any of the cast because they don't really care about Michelle for some reason, only Britany. So then Brit starts crying because she realizes that this is harder than she thought. Even though it was a great idea for TV, it's kind of a lot more emotional than she realized. So then Britany drops the bomb of bombs that Jax Taylor owed in back taxes, not property taxes, back taxes, over $1 million to the IRS. And if he wasn't able to pull that out of the house in terms of equity or a loan or something, put a lien on the house and take that money to pay the IRS, that he was going to end up going to jail. And we finally find out the truth as to why the mortgage went from $8,000 to $18,000, which I tried to figure out last week because I told you guys it doesn't make any sense what she's saying, like that it has to do with taxes. So what she really meant was that Jax owed the IRS in taxes over $1 million, and they had to take out a loan on the property and then put that loan money into this $18,000. So that's what she meant by taxes, not to do with the property or even them as a couple, like something that Jax did all by himself because he didn't pay taxes on his income over the years with the show. We also find out that the U.S. government took $100,000 from Britney's account without her permission as a result of her being married to Jax at the time. So then the group decides to rebrand Jax's bar as Britney's bar, which nobody thinks is funny, especially Jesse, who's good friends with Jax, and that they're going to celebrate Britney by the end of the episode. Now, there's some tea around Jax's place, besides the fact that his investors originally were going to invest in Britney in a bar that was going to be near, Lisa Vanderpump's place in West Hollywood, and then they pulled out suddenly and they blamed, the economy, etc., but they just stopped. I always said I thought it was Jax who stopped that. Anyway, Jax said he wants to revamp his bar with a new brand, and he's going to enroll Brock Davies to help him with Schwartz. Now, the producers joked, are you going to change the name to Schwartzy and Jax? And he said, no, I'm not going to do that because I don't want it to be defined by a person. Obviously, we know why after the Tom Sandoval scandal, because his restaurant basically tanked because of him publicly cheating on Ariana in such an awful way. A lot of that ended up being a bad thing for his bar, not a good thing. So it failed. So now, Jax's position is like, let's not put anyone's name on this place. So Jax's podcast show that he was supposed to do this summer was slowly but surely having venues cancel on him. And then I also heard through the grapevine, not in this, tabloid land, but otherwise that he was getting into a lot of trouble when he was doing his other podcast tour that he was doing. He was, out of control and using the podcast tour as an outlet for him to, party, as well as get into trouble with girls and stuff like that. And when his team wasn't there, it was a disaster. So I think there was also some decision that it wasn't a good time for Jax to do this tour, not just because the venues didn't want it and maybe the ticket sales were bad, sure, but more so because people love controversy, More so because he got into trouble on these tours. A lot of trouble, especially when his publicist wasn't there. So then we supposedly see Danny Bucco being Danny Darko, but I'm not seeing Danny Darko. So it doesn't really edit the way they hope. I mean, he has every right to come for Janet because she came for him. So the cast calls Janet a snake, and she sort of is. She calls out that Danny was grabbing girls' asses, generally, when he was drinking as Darko Danny, which we don't really see. We see just a drunk guy talking to a girl who caused him a lot of drama. It's not that big a deal. But then we also see Nia getting upset that this is going on TV and they want to get off the cameras. It's uncomfortable for them with all this. And, the thing that is annoying to me, of course, is that Janet is saying grabbing asses, but we know he was grabbing Jasmine's ass with her girlfriend, which I'm not taking away from that situation, which obviously upset her because she said it on the show. But she's gay. It's not like he was trying to sleep with her. You know what I mean? Well, as you guys know, Jesse and Jax were friends before this show, and they're probably the closest on the show. So Jesse really does stay true to his character and stands up for Jax. This is wrong. He's about to get out of rehab. We're making his bar, which he loves, with his name, Brit's. It's so bad. And they're in a divorce, and he's about to get all this horrible news, and his stuff's in garbage bags, and he's moving in this new place. And maybe this isn't the right thing to do to someone coming out of rehab who had a coke problem and other problems, and makes a good point as a good friend. And he's just how much do you need to win, Britany? And Britany's I will win, don't forget it, which is the first time we've seen Britany really be powerful. Now, Jax said that he has been protecting Britany by not talking about all the bad things she did to him that they're showing on the show that he did to her. And that's his kind of story in all this, is that there's a load of stuff we're not seeing from her perspective that she did bad to him. I don't know. I mean, it's messy, this whole thing. I think I'm ready for this divorce to happen and Jax and Britany to just split up and move on, and co-parent their kid who needs their love, right, with all the things he's dealing with. So let's just leave it there. I'm gonna go. I'm exhausted from this show. I can't wait till it's over. I'm excited for season 3, but just to move off these topics, it's too much. Funny, there's been loads of announcements of people quitting, and some are false and some are true from Bravo. A lot of change happening. A lot of change. All right, you guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Sorry, this one was a little weird this week, but I hope you still enjoyed it. Like and subscribe. I'm still in Europe. Want to see a picture? Let me show you one. The hills are alive with the sound of music.